Like to call the meeting to order. We are here this morning to try to interview some potential candidates for economic development. Appreciate everybody coming this morning. I'd like to be polite and go with the ladies first. I'd like to start with Keisha Davis.
All right. Good morning. Good morning.
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 Take your time.
Oh,
Tell
okay.
us a little bit about yourself and your interest in serving on the board.
Oh,
Okay.
We might have
Excuse
some
me.
questions for you.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if you were going to start with the
I'm
questions.
sorry.
Excuse my voice, I'm a little hoarse, so, and I, try my best to get through it. But my name is Keisha Davis, and I submitted an application to be on the Economic Development Committee because I am a resident of Person County, and I realized that I know more about Durham County because I actually work for Durham County government. I'm the MWBE coordinator for the county, and I also, excuse me, my voice, also do a lot of work with the city of Durham, and I'm on the mayor's innovation team. And so I do a lot of work in that space with the city as well, with the Bloomberg Harvard team with economic development. And in the work that I do, I follow Person County on social media, and I'm the administrator for the page for Durham County government for the MWBE page. And I realize when I read your document, your dockets for the meetings, and I see what's going on in Person County, that I don't know a whole lot about the county that I actually reside in. And I do a lot of work with the hub office, and I do a lot of work with my project managers on city projects in Durham County and the city of Durham. And because I'm a resident of Person County, I thought that I may have something to offer, and it would also give me more insight into what's going on in the county that I actually pay taxes in and live in. So.
Could you explain a little further exactly what you do at Durham?
I'm the MWBE coordinator. That's the Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprises program. And what I do is I serve as a liaison between the departments, the internal departments, and the business owners, the minority and women-owned business owners that would like to do business with Durham County. The county has an ordinance to do a minority and women business enterprises ordinance. And in that ordinance, we have aspirational goals to do a certain percentage of our business with minorities. And so part of my job is to work with my project, with my project managers, with our construction managers, and to see what programs they have in place and what their plans are for MWBE participation. And so part of that work it involves some education. So I'll do education outreach sessions. I'll facilitate hub, trying to think what you call it. Well, hub trainings. So I just got through working on an outreach with the city of Durham where we had a sort of a networking, but also informational session, and we had representatives there from the Department of Transportation and also the hub office to talk about certification. So we'll talk about hub certification and also DOT.
All right, but you don't help them start the business. You just coordinate them between.
I do. I just help to coordinate. So the business development part goes into making sure when we have our outreach sessions that companies are ready to do business with us. A lot of times we run into small entrepreneurs a lot of times that want to do business with the county, but they're not in a position to where they may not even be registered with the Secretary of State. So it is outside the area of economic development in that I'm not on a team that recruits businesses to come in per se. We do advertise and we do training sessions to help business owners to show them what they need to be able to do business with us. That's pretty much what we do. And then as far as the internal piece, I work within the departments to help them to connect with those business owners, and also I track the minority spend on projects.
Okay.
Could you speak to any strengths you think you may bring to the commission?
Organization, I'm a very organized person, outgoing, inquisitive. I ask a lot of questions. So, and I'm also good at executing initiatives when needed.
All right. Anybody got any questions?
The time that you all meet, would that be affected? Tell them the time that you meet that way.
We meet on the 4th Tuesday at 4 o'clock.
No, I've already talked to my management team, and that's fine. Not that we have no problem with that.
Do you see any areas of additional focus that the current EDC board needs to improve on, or any areas that they may be overlooking to improve economic conditions in this county?
Well, as a resident of the county, I just don't know much about it to say. I mean, I'm kind of on the outside looking in, and I've gone online and I've read about what's going on currently. I've also referred to documentation from the School of Government in Raleigh to look at differences with smaller jurisdictions like Person County and Roxborough. So without having a full overview, which I don't know that I could adequately answer that. That's part of my interest in wanting to serve on the committee, is that, I do feel somewhat responsible for knowing more, and I'm a Person County resident. And so that is somewhat what has piqued my interest.
And how long have you resided in Person County?
4 years, so I'm a newer resident.
Anybody else got any questions? All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I hope I get this right. Zakika James?
It's Zakia James.
Zakia, excuse me.
No,
Okay.
no, you're fine.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and
Yes,
why you think you'd be a good addition to the board?
yes. I am Zakia James, a new resident to Person County. We just purchased our home last year. I currently work for Self-Help Services Corporation on the division for the headquarters, which is Self-Help, or if you heard of Self-Help Credit Union, which is one of the larger, more popular CDFIs here in North Carolina. I am the procurement and customer care lead, and then before then, when we moved here, I actually started out on their nonprofit side, which is the Center for Responsible Lending, and I was on the philanthropy team. I'm really, really excited to get involved in my community. I've always been someone involved in their community since growing up in Atlanta and going to the marches and feeding the homeless and more. So this is really important to me to make sure that I'm putting all of my efforts and my energy and all of my resources into where I live.
Could you speak to any strengths that you think you may bring to the commission?
Yes, so I have about 12 years of experience in marketing communications, so I'm really great at that. I am currently, I will claim that I am the only project manager with my current employer, but I have great project management skills as well. I'm great at researching. In Durham right now for my employer, I do lead all community service efforts. So I'm making sure that I'm reaching out to allies and grassroots organizations in the community in need, and then just bridging that gap between the employer and the community itself.
Have you worked with any local community organizations here in Person County?
No, sir.
Anybody got more questions?
Ask your other question.
Well, my thing is, if I ask the same question, everybody, the very last person's going to know exactly how to answer that question. So I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit.
Don't ask them in the same order. Okay.
Anything else you would like to add?
No, I've been following up on everything that's going on in my county. I always read the paper. When I first moved here, I was really shocked that there weren't a lot of small businesses in the downtown area, especially diverse as the county is. So sometimes when we're picking up fried fish on the side of the road or whatnot, I'm like, hey, where are the minority-owned businesses? And a lot of people are like, there aren't any. So I really do have passion for that, and just anything else that comes up being a member of the commission. Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have any reservations at all about this board? Do you see anything that, in addition to Commissioner Jeffers' question, what you can add to it, but are there any specific ideas that you would like the board to focus on?
When it comes to the small businesses, it would be great. I'm not sure if there is a joint effort with like your local credit union, so Roxborough Savings Bank. Are there any programs around that? I've been looking up the MEGA site. Hopefully I can join the tour next Friday with the North Carolina Leadership Group. Just wondering, have we ever looked at the whole innovation and industrial side to make sure we're using those terms, just looking at the videos and reading all the information around that. Coming up 501, beautiful county. I love my county. I love all my animals in my backyard, but a little cleanup, with the trash. Maybe we need to talk to the city of Roxborough, trash and recycling company, and all of the other smaller ones, because the county is too great to, you're looking in the middle of the median and you see all the paper and things, and then you're thinking about all of the animals that are around that it can also affect. So that pretty much gives you an insight on all the things that are important to me in my house, and why we actually decided to invest here and move here.
And I just want to make sure I didn't miss it. You're with the credit union, correct? Or
Headquarters, but just you can say the credit union. It's okay. It's really confusing because it's divided into 5 divisions. I'm on the headquarters side.
Okay.
But there is Self-Help Credit Union is a part of the entire organization.
Gotcha.
So sorry if I confused you just a little bit.
You live on the south side of town?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the mega site we have?
I am familiar. I have not been to it yet. So, Ms. Harris, I just received the email about the North Carolina Leadership is going next Friday. So, because one of my projects have been pushed back, I'm hoping that I can make it and learn more about the project.
Okay. Anybody got any other more questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Glenn Martin, please.
Morning.
morning.
Would just tell us a little bit about yourself and
Okay.
how you think you would
I'll try to do that.
help the commission.
Okay. My name's Glenn Martin. I live on the northern end of Person County. I've been a longtime resident of Person County, and I'm very committed to Person County. I've worked in health care in Person County for the last 30 years or so. So that's my background, is health care, and also involvement in school system. I've been with Bethel Hill Charter School on their board since the board was created. So important in what's going on in the county and what's going on throughout the county. I'm also a member of Calvary Baptist Church, a deacon there. So I'm concerned about making sure that we're doing things the right way and things that we need to do here in the county. Also a member of the Saponi tribe in Person County. So, just try to make sure that I represent our tribe and our area and look at things that I need to do and be involved in the county in whatever things I need to look at. Why am I interested? I've got 3 kids, I've got 7 grandkids, so I didn't think I'd be this nervous, but
Take a deep breath.
I know it. It's like, wait a minute.
We're not that important.
I know it, but no, I've got kids here in the county, so it makes it something I care about. I care about what goes on in the county. I care about, how can we better this county? Talk about the mega site, down in I'm very, interested in what's going to happen with that. And how can I be involved in it? How can I make things better and with that? Also with, looking at speaking of Northern Indiana County because I live there, I'd like to see us look at things there, if it's something we can do in that area. We do a lot of things that help, a lot of places, but I think that there are some things in the northern part of the county that we're missing out on. And I'd like to see us, and not just segregate the northern side, but the whole county, but as I'm involved, I think I can bring a knowledge, expertise, and also with healthcare matters. I think this county can bring in jobs that are healthcare related. We have a hospital that is related, kind of connected with Duke, and I think we have a lot of people driving back and forth to Durham to work with Duke, and I think as a retiree of Duke, I think that there's some things we could do with Duke in this county to help bring in some jobs and set up a post here or a place that people could work here, work from this area that might be of benefit for the county. But, I just feel like as a citizen of this county, I need to be more involved with Person County and keep myself involved and keep myself in tune with what's going on in the county.
Any specific strengths you want to speak to, Glenn, as far as you bring to the commission?
Well, I think I have a good strength in working with people. I work with all kind of organizations. I've worked with different places, different organizations and different types of organizations in healthcare. You have to deal with all types of businesses. I work with people in all positions in the healthcare. So I feel like I bring that to the county, to this Economic Development Committee.
Do you feel that the EDC board is heading in the right direction or just spinning its wheels?
Well, I think that we're headed slowly in the right direction, Mr. Pereira, but I think we could move a little faster, we can move a little quicker, we can focus on some things that may help the county move, but I don't want to see us move too fast. But when you ask that question, it's hard to answer without being the specifics of what's going on with the Economic Development Committee.
Anybody got any questions? All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Apologize.
Mr. Perry, Kenny Perry?
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, staff. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. And we can get started. Asking the same questions you asked everybody else.
Well, you kind of tell us what you bring and what you could offer to the commission. Having been there before.
Yes, I have been on it before. And one of the things that I would bring to the commission is the ability to have a diverse segment of the community work together towards a common goal. I have a track record of having done that before, and I'm confident that with you all's direction that can happen again. Another thing that I bring is the vision for economic development for the county, and the vision of moving forward, and the vision of having all residents be involved in economic development as participants on the business side, entrepreneurship side, and the supporting side, because everyone is not a business owner, everyone is not an entrepreneur, but everyone has the obligation to support those things, because when everyone has the ability to pay for themselves, then our county is a stronger county for having that overall.
Any questions?
Any specific strengths you want to speak to?
Some of my strengths that I would bring to the commission is marketing. I am in marketing now. I work as an independent contractor. I'm in marketing and also public relations side of it. Clients come to me when they are ready to market their products and services to the general public or to their particular clientele. And I bring that strength to it. I also bring the strength of understanding the boots on the ground effect of economic development. Some of you see it when you go to the Christian Help Center where the food banks. Some of you see it when you go there. I've seen it when plants have shut down, because I was part of the team that actually went to the plants when they shut down to help the executive level and non-executive level prepare themselves for after their plant is shutting down for their future. So the boots on the ground, I have that perspective, and I also have this perspective of being a big business, a previous business owner in agriculture manufacturing, putting workers to work, helping them understand that not only am I appreciative of what they did for me, but I'm appreciative of what I did to them, bring them a fair wage for their services and things like that in the community.
Any other questions?
If it's okay, I do have a question for you all, if that's okay.
Oh, yes.
What is the commissioners, whether it be individual or as a group, what is you all's vision for Person County's mega site?
My personal vision is to, we are fairly close to hopefully getting the Army Corps permits. And I was in Washington last week visiting with Senator Burr and Senator Tillis, and trying to get a coordination of effort lined up to go forward with that. We did get a grant to put a water line to that site, which in and of itself is going to make that site a viable project in some respect. We have been somewhat chasing a certain type of industry. I think we will find out real quick if that's something that we need to continue to pursue or not. The Army Corps permits will put our site actually ahead of all the other mega sites in the state. So we've actually got something we can go hard sell, and I certainly, with Commissioner Powell, I certainly intend on making that effort. Now, with that said, I think once we achieve those permits, in my opinion, we need to focus probably a majority of our interests on the south side of town. And hopefully through this budget system, budget season, that one of my goals, I don't know if we'll have enough money to do that, but what I would like to see us start doing is putting sewer line in going south to open up the south side of town. You know, get as much bang for your buck as possible, and you know, everything's got to go back to the waste treatment plant, so you know, you can start there and start building spurs and going in the the south side of town is a better, easier sale, but it's the side that we have the least amount of infrastructure on. We do have water in that direction, but sewer is almost at a capacity. So to try to bring something new to that area would be very limiting right now. The city is in the process of improving their capacity from pump station to, the whole system on that side is almost maxed out. And I mean, what I mean by that, not only the pump station's pretty close, but where those dump into are almost full. And so what they're looking at doing is running some more sewer lines so they can dump more there. But the other thing that I think is absolute necessary is for us to develop a workforce development plan. We can't recruit somebody here if we can't prove to them that we can train their workforce. And so with Pamela Senegal and the director of the Southside Virginia Higher Education in South Boston, and also the Advanced Technology in Danville, we've been able to develop a regional workforce development. About 6 months ago, I went to New York to see the site that actually put this site on the map. And their training facilities are very good, but what I witnessed in Danville and South Boston is they've got equal or better facilities, and the one in South Boston is already training the type people that you would need for the client that we're trying to pursue. So that's in an overview, that's my vision of it. Everybody else is certainly welcome to add to that.
My vision is to do everything I can with my one vote to try to make it happen. I see it almost as not a last-ditch effort, but one of our last few efforts to really promote something big as far as economic development, as far as landing an industry here in Person County. If you look at our county health report from a few years back, by 2030, we're expected to be 60% senior. If you're a senior community, it brings us challenges. There's a demand on services, especially with our EMS and probably volunteer fire departments on answering calls and things of that nature. But 60% senior isn't a workforce that I think most companies look for when they want to move into a community. And so we have to decide, I think, fairly soon what we want to be in Person County. Either we're going to go after these big companies and try to bring industry, or we're going to improve our quality of life and embrace being a senior community or a retirement community. And we're already a bedroom community to Durham and Raleigh, and we're sending, at one time I've seen numbers about 40% of our workforce is traveling across the county line to commute. That's why you see our average salary income for Person County, our average median household salary is higher than what people are paying here in Person County, because the majority of them are working outside of the county. And I think that's what we have to decide as a vision. If the mega site, obviously we need to do everything we can to improve it, but what does Person County want to be in 30 years? I've lived here all my life, besides 2 months I was at Duke because I was a preemie. And I don't plan to go anywhere, and so I want to see it succeed, and but we want to decide what we want to work for. Right now, I think we're just paying the bills and keeping the lights on. After a while, we got to decide where we want to be.
Anybody else want to respond?
I think what you two gentlemen have just said are pretty much the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about with economic development. It's a tough area. Everybody in the whole country is after the same thing that we are. So there's a lot there. There's a lot of moving parts in it. But the future's what this is about. That we've got to have that vision, and that vision is for these young people that just walked in this room this morning. The greatest life-changing event in a person's life is a job. And we want good and better jobs in Person County. And we're going to do that through the development of not only the mega site, but otherwise with some smaller entities. Could be support industries within and around the mega site, and it could, and certainly want it to be in other locations in the county as well. But what we're talking about developing today is for our young people tomorrow, and I see no better place to start with economic development than education. That's what it's all about, and I appreciate these folks being here.
Since I hadn't said anything, I'd like to agree with Commissioner Newell and Jeffries that I think they pretty much summed it all up. I'm not going to try to add anything to that.
Did we answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you all. I appreciate you allowing me to ask it.
Okay. Got anything else you want to add?
That's it for me, sir.
Okay. Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. Peter Baker is another applicant who could not be here. I think all of the commissioners have received a letter of response from him. I don't know if we got any questions concerning him or not. If we do, now's the time. I don't know who can answer them, but we can certainly approach them. All right, no questions on Mr. Baker, then the floor is open for suggestions.
Since we thought we were going to be able to recess till 9 a.m., would it be appropriate to take about a 5-minute recess and come back to open?
Okay, we stand in recess for 5 minutes.
Your sister says you need to pull your mic up.
Hello? Okay. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. According to our parliamentarian, I've been instructed to open the regular meeting, and we will just add the appointment of that applicant, or we'll handle that as one of the orders of business. Commissioner Powell, if you would lead us in the invocation, and Mr. Perrier, if you would lead us in the pledge.
If you so desire, would you pray with me, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that we have to assemble here to conduct the business of the county. We pray that you would influence our thoughts, deeds, and actions in the way that you would have us to go. We pray for the young people that are here today, their life in Person County, and their future in Person County. And at the same time, we would offer up prayers to the people in New Zealand that have gone through such a tragic event in their country. Lead, guide, and direct us, we pray. In the holy name, amen.
Amen. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The agenda, what I'd like to do is adjust the agenda to add the appointment of EDC position to the agenda as item number 1.
So moved.
Any other adjustments? If not, have a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. Would like to welcome all of the future board members of Person County to our meeting this morning. We hope that you gain some knowledge on how the sausage is made. We're not quite as complicated process as Washington, but sometimes you wonder. I'm David Newell. I'm chairman of the board this year, and I'm a local businessman that been in the family manufacturing business for almost 100 years, the family has. And so we've been around here as a good part of the community, and that's one of my reasons I'm sitting up here, is because I want to make sure that we go forward and try to improve the situation. What I'd like to do is go around the table here and let everybody introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about themselves, and we'll start with Commissioner Powell.
Age before beauty, huh? Mm-hmm. Good. My name's Gordon Powell.
We got to get to you before we lose you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That's very comforting. But I don't know about you. I don't have any plans to leave.
I ain't talking about the board.
I'm talking about both. My name's Gordon Powell. Almost a lifelong resident. Moved here prior to school days and attended schools in Person County. And been involved in this county's activities and paying taxes for a long, long time. I'll just go ahead and tell you up front, you don't even have to guess it. I'm the oldest one here. You're going to hear about the younger ones. I always talk about the youth, but I'm the oldest one here, and you always need some gray hair in the room, I guess. But approximately 40 years in education in Person County and involvement with county activities through this board, and have a deep burning desire to see Person County succeed. To me, it's, and it should be to all of us, the greatest place on earth to live. So, and again, I'm just encouraged by the young people that are here today, and we always talk to you people about being involved, and that's needless to say. I'm sure you hear that from your teachers and instructors at the high school, but always bear that in mind. Get involved with what's going on, because things are going to happen with or without you, and with your influence, it will be a positive influence. So get involved through your school activities, through your church, through college, whatever it may be, but be active, be involved, and be a part of what's going on, and you will make your county a success. So again, glad to see you here.
Mr. Clayton?
I'm Jimmy Clayton. I was born and raised in the Timberlake area on a small farm. We had livestock and tobacco. And I left, went to NC State, came back and worked at the local health department here in environmental health. Still live on the family farm that I was raised on. And until the last probably 3 years, I had some beef cows that I looked after, but I didn't have a lot of help doing it. I'm not the oldest one on the board, but I'm getting on up there behind him. So I started cutting back on some of that type stuff. After I retired from the state health department, I worked at the local health department here and ended up my career with the state. I ran for Board of County Commissioners and got elected to that. Decided I would try to give back some service to the community. It's a lot of you all were not even in school when I got on the board here, so it's I'm looking for you all to the future. Now, like Commissioner Powell said, you're going to hear about some of the young ones here, and they were actually sitting in the audience while I was on this board, so don't think that you can't do this. You can. And pay attention to your local government. You hear all of this stuff on the news about Washington and Raleigh and all of that, but a lot of the action goes on right here in Person County. We provide a lot of the funding for the school system, the sheriff's department, your social services department, all of your county departments. A lot of the funding comes right through this board and through your property taxes. And when you hear your parents saying, oh Lord, they're not going to raise my tax this year, they're talking about us and the property tax. But that's the only thing we have, or the biggest thing that we have to fund all of these different programs that go on here. And if you get real bored and want to look at us online, you can go back and watch some of our commissioners' meetings. And we've been filming our work sessions online as well. So if you want to kind of know what goes on at a local level, and you just get bored with your computer, you can just tune us right in. And
That would put them to sleep.
that's all I got.
All right. Mr. Jeffers?
Well, I'm Ray Jeffers. I've been elected since 2008. In 2008, I was the youngest commissioner elected in the state, and as far as we believe, in Person County. So I'm 35 now, so that doesn't sound so young, but it is compared to these guys. And but I've been on the board since 2008, had a distinct honor to serve as president of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners in 2014, the youngest president to ever serve. I was the 97th president, and I was sworn in at the age of 29. Currently also serve on our National Association of Counties Board of Directors. I've served on that for, I'm in my 5th year with that, and also running to be the 2nd vice president of that organization, which is our national organization that all the counties belong to. We have 3,069 counties in the United States. 2/3 of those look like us. They're rural counties. And so it's very important, I think, that people like us from rural America have representation not only on our national board, but in things that we're doing at the state level. I also always try to mention to you all when you come to never think this because you don't vote that you're not our constituents or we don't listen. A few years ago, we had some students come and talked about how poorly the Wi-Fi was at the high school, and so we were able to put some extra funding toward the school board budget to help with that. And I guess I always said I ran because I stayed. I'm one of the few that actually stayed in Person County. A lot of my classmates live in Baltimore and Durham and Charlotte and Greensboro and places like that. And very much same thing that you all were thinking, we were thinking. There's nothing to do in Roxboro, and we're going to get out here just as soon as we can. But we don't want you all to have that mentality. We want you to come back like I did, get involved, understand your local current events, what's going on around you in your county, and figure out ways that you can try to help to improve that. And that's one of the reasons that I ran in 2008, mainly because to try to improve quality of life to where so many of you all will go off to school and choose to come back to Person County.
Thank you.
Commissioner Puryear.
Good morning. My name's Kyle Puryear. This is my 13th year on the Board of Commissioners. I was the youngest commissioner at one time until Mr. Jeffers beat me out a couple years later. You know, about 20 years ago, I was sitting exactly where you were at Local Government Day, and like you, I felt as just an opportunity to get out of school and not have to be there, but I actually took something away from that meeting, and 8 years later, I was here sitting on this board at the age of 26. I just want to express that, you know, that there's a lot of good things that you can do for your community and get involved with different types of committees. As Ray said, just because you're 18, just because you cannot vote right now doesn't mean you can't have a significant impact in your community. So I urge for you to take at least one thing away from us today. And also, if you have any questions, or you know, we're up here and we represent the entire county, everybody in the entire county. I'm originally from the northern end of the side. I've lived here my entire life. I've got a beautiful wife and a young baby boy. And but again, we look at where you work at. My full-time job is in Oxford, so I don't have a full-time job here in Roxborough. But we want to provide an opportunity for you to have to have employment inside Person County, not having to go outside the county. But I do want you just to take one thing away today, no matter how small or large it could be, but something that you can remember this by, and that you can go home and tell your parents what you learned today at a county commissioner meeting. And it'd be fun to ask your parents, have you ever been to a county commission meeting before? Because, you know, sometimes these meetings are boring, but sometimes they got a little spark in them every once in a while. So, but I want to appreciate everyone coming, and thank you for being here.
Ms. York.
Good morning. I'm Heidi York. I serve as the county manager, which means that I don't actually have to run for office. I'm appointed by the 5 elected county commissioners, and I work for them to carry out policy decisions that they make up here, and I oversee the day-to-day operations of county government. We have approximately 400 full-time employees that work for Person County government in about 25 different service areas, all led by department heads who report to either me or my assistant manager. I've been the county manager for 10 years here, and when I was in high school, I was interested in local government, so I did a summer job in a county executive's office, and that sort of launched my career years later after college and graduate school. We have lots of job opportunities in county government, and it's a great way to impact your community in a positive way, to feel like you're giving back something to the community in which you live. We welcome you to our meeting today and hope that you'll remain involved in Person County. Thanks.
Ms. Reeves.
Good morning, and welcome to our County Commissioners meeting. My name is Brenda Reeves. I serve in 2 capacities. I am, like the county manager, appointed as the clerk to the Board of County Commissioners, and I was so appointed in 2009, so this is a 10-year anniversary for me this month. And secondly, I serve in an administrative role where I am the executive assistant on a daily basis to the county manager. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Aycock.
I'm Rod Aycock. I am the county attorney and the 3rd person around this table not elected. I, like the other 2 you have heard from, am appointed by the Board of Commissioners and serve however long they want me to. It's important when you go to those government classes that you begin to understand the big picture. My role here is to aid the commissioners in making sure they comply with state and federal laws. The government in the United States is controlled really by the federal and the state level. State government, the General Assembly, sets the rules for the operation of this county and every other county and city in the state. The commissioners must abide by those laws, as those laws may be varied some by the national laws. It's my job to help the commissioners make sure they comply with all the laws and to help them get the best deals. One part of my job also is to help in drafting ordinances, which are the rules adopted by this board. It is also my job to help them develop their contracts they have with other providers to make sure we get the best deal for the citizens of Person County. So I urge you to think about, as the county manager has suggested, what you might do. You might want to be an administrator. You might want to follow in the footsteps of the elected people here and be an elected official. You might want to be a county manager, a health director, an IT director. There are many opportunities for you, but the most important thing is to understand your role and be committed to doing something to help yourself and help your fellow man and woman.
All right. Since we are talking about economic development this morning, I would like to engage the students here this morning, just to maybe break a little bit of the boredom. But how many of you are planning to go to college? Almost all of you, okay? Now, if our game plan with this mega site, which it's come a long ways in the last 3 or 4 months, if you were able to get a job right out of high school that paid you, say, $75,000 to $100,000 a year, how many of you would still go to college? Well, you know, the people that we are pursuing to put in the type facility that we hope they would put in, those jobs pay somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 a year. And so when I mentioned a minute ago about the workforce development, to get started, we're getting very good cooperation from the state, from Danville and South Boston, because like it or not, half the workforce will probably come out of Virginia, so they're very interested in our project. Now, our next step, once we get that in place, we've talked to the superintendent of schools and PCC, and what we want to do is create start manufacturing employees for the industry that we recruit right out of high school. And so that was the reason I asked if you had an alternative like that, because if you went to college and graduated, I would venture to guess that the likelihood of you getting a job that paid that amount of money would be almost like you making the NBA draft. You know, you only got 1 or 2% that are going to get a job. Even though you got a college degree, there's an awful lot of people that can't make a living off what they get hired for. So anyway, that's what the EDC Commission is working towards right now. It looks very promising, but I wouldn't write any checks on it yet. But that's kind of what we're involved with right now, and I appreciate y'all coming, and I hope you understand what we're working for. Do any of y'all have any questions you'd like to ask us? Okay, we appreciate you being here. All right, we've got a ceremony to take care of here. I'd like for Gary Martin to come forward, please. Mr. Martin, I'd like to read this resolution to you in appreciation. Whereas Gary Martin has served the people of Person County during his tenure working for Person County Emergency Medical Services as an emergency medical paramedic, and whereas Gary Martin has served the citizens of Person County with honor, integrity, sincerity, dedication, providing accurate, concise services. Let me put my reading glasses on. For 19 years, from April 2000 to February 2019. And whereas Gary Martin has earned the respect and admiration of all who have known him and worked with him throughout his career. And whereas the County of Person recognizes the many contributions Gary Martin has made to the county and offers him sincere and best wishes for his retirement. Now therefore, I, David Newell Sr., Chairman of the Person County Board of Commissioners, do hereby extend this resolution of appreciation to Gary Martin for continuing striving to make Roxborough and Person County a better place to live. Gary, we appreciate your service.
Congratulations.
The mic's yours if you want to say anything.
I just thank y'all. I enjoyed serving the community for 19 years. I've been in the fire department here since 1984, and I've been rescue squad volunteer since 94, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Met some nice people, had some experiences that that you never anticipate. Every day is a different day when you're working in EMS. So, and I thank all the county for all the support. Thank you.
I appreciate the times you picked me up.
Did you move item 1 to the end, or are you going?
I'm going to do the informal, then we'll do it after that. We have a 10-minute informal comment here. Mike Rudder, if you would come and enlighten us.
Good morning. I'm Michael Rudder, the president of the Board of Directors for the Person County Museum of History. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank the county commissioners for years of service to the museum. We are very dependent on you, and we are very grateful for the collaboration and cooperation that you provide for the museum. And as an example, very recently we had a hot water heater installed in the parsonage building at the museum. And what a luxury it is to have hot water now. So we thank you, and a very special thanks to Director of General Services, Ray Frashee, for helping us with that. Like you all, we have a very important mission in Person County, serving the citizens of this county and town with, to help preserve the history of the county. And we are very grateful for all of the collaboration and cooperation and support that you provide us. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all. We should have done it many times, but I'm thanking you for everything that you've done and will do for us. So many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, is there anybody else that wants to speak? If not, we'll move on to the agenda. Item number 1, would like to take care of the EDC appointment at this time. The floor is open for nominations for that position.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Glenn Martin.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Kenneth Perry.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. We'll vote. Would like to vote on Glenn Martin first. We have a show of hands for Glenn Martin. Okay. Kenny Perry. Okay. Mr. Perry, you are a new member on the Economic Development Board.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate your show of support.
I would invite our applicants to get in touch with our clerk to the board, because we do have a lot of boards in the county that are absent some members. And so there may be another area that you may be interested in and willing to serve.
All right, moving on. Has everybody had a chance to look at the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 4. Ms. Tate, if you would come inform us about mental health refunds.
As you know, each year we get funds back from Cardinal. We're glad to get those back. In the past, we haven't gotten those back, so we're happy to take that money back and try to find a good use for those funds. And that's what this agenda item is for. You'll see in your abstract that we have 3 projects that we're recommending that you fund with that refund. The first one is funding for the group homes. And the executive director, David Forsyth, is here if you have any questions, but he did send you a letter which was sent to you that had more information about that request. So we're recommending $10,000 to go towards the group homes. We also are asking for funds to continue a pilot in the jail and expand that pilot. If you'll recall, last year we used these funds to provide a peer support specialist in the jail, a part-time person, and we're asking for those funds to move that person to a full-time position, and that would also require a vehicle. That new position would not only work with jail staff, but it would also work with EMS, 911, and sheriff to reduce the amount of phone calls that they get from mental health consumers in the county. They get a lot of repeat calls, and so we would hope that this person is going to help reduce those repeat calls by providing wraparound services for folks out in the community. And the final recommendation is to fund a new shredder and storage bins at Person Industries. As you know, they work with individuals with disabilities and provide mental health services for those folks. So that is my request. If you
How
have
much
any,
we get back?
around $25,000. I think the total request is $25,230. So we have some additional money that does need to be spent as well, but the projects that I've received requests for wouldn't begin until July 1st. So I'm waiting to come before you again with that request in the next fiscal year.
What are the restrictions on using these funds? I mean, are we held to using them for, they came from mental health?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it has to be mental health related. So, you know, it can be substance abuse, it can be regular mental health services, it can be individuals with disabilities. Those are kind of the 3 broad categories that we can fund with these amounts. And if you'll recall, in times past when I've presented items like this, you know, I went through various meetings, attended community meetings, met with nonprofit groups, met with our county departments to come up with ideas on projects and ways that we could spend these funds efficiently. In the past, Cardinal had kept those monies and we never got them back. So in an effort to be, you know, transparent and to use those funds more efficiently, we've kind of undertaken this effort to, you know, to get more feedback from our community about how the funds should be spent. And
Okay, out of that 25, give us the breakdown again. Person County Group Homes will get what?
10,000.
I'm not seeing it on I'm on the online agenda, but mine goes straight to Pat's after the minutes. Go ahead,
So it's 10,000 for the group homes, 7,908 for the additional, it's for making that part-time jail position into a full-time position for a pilot program, plus a vehicle, which is 3,500. And then 3,822 for Person Industries.
And you said we will have some additional funds?
Yes.
How much, do you know?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. If there are projects that this board would like to recommend, I mean, that's why I'm here before you, is to share ideas from the community, but also get your feedback if there are other projects or needs that you have heard of. You know, please let me know.
Well, one need I can think of, and we've got our chairperson of the Partnership for Children Board here, is that there is we're looking at ways to, what's the correct term, for our children who we know are suffering from some mental health issues, of getting them resources.
Yes.
And so I don't want us to, this money has come back to us a couple of times, and you all already come to us with ways to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want us to give some input, and we did with the sheriff and jail. And I'm not against any of these projects. I'm just wanting to know when we get additional funds to maybe get in touch with the Partnership for Children and see how we can assist.
Yes.
A lot of this seems like we're treating what we already know instead of trying to prevent or to help those children to get the diagnosed or treatment that they need early on, to where we're not hopefully treating them in the jail
Yes.
20 years from now.
Right.
And so I want us to look at some programs or something, or some type of partnership with the partnership.
Okay, sure.
To work on that.
Yeah, and I have met with Ann, and actually one of the projects that we're talking about doing for next fiscal year would be with Partnership for Children. She also did request an additional $10,000 in fiscal year 20 from the mental health budget to increase a staff person's time. We were previously giving $20,000, so she asked for an additional 10, and that is in your,
Okay.
as it moves through the budget
I'm on
process.
the board, so I want to make sure that was
Yeah.
mentioned at our last board meeting, and I want
Yes.
to make sure that's on our radar when we get these funds back and you all are coming up with recommendations.
Yes, that increase will be in your budget, so.
And
Yes.
Being on the Cardinal Board,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was an important point that you just made. That board was appointed a couple of years ago by the Secretary of Health, and as previously noted, these funds were kept by Cardinal by the previous board, put into their slush fund, if you'd like to call it that. So the current board voted against doing such and returning the funds that we could back to the locals. And I think that's extremely important and says a lot for the new Cardinal Board and what it does on a local basis, and that's important to us here. That's where the grassroots are. I don't know how much additional monies will come. I do know that Cardinal's revenue was reduced by probably $33 million this year. So I don't know how greatly that will impact, but it's good that we could direct this money to the locals, because who knows better where some of that money needs to be applied than we do here on a local basis, and I appreciate the emphasis put on these three categories here. And when additional funds do come, we will probably go through an application process, a request process, and there are lots of needs, as Commissioner Jeffers pointed out one, but there are lots here in the county. We won't have any trouble spending it. We want it to go in the right place to have the most impact locally. So again, from the position of being on that board, I'll do all I can to direct all we can right here to the county.
Ask a question if I could. Then some of our local funds that we are required to contribute to the OPC group, they have been sending that back to us as well.
Yes, that's what these are from. So we give, or we're required to spend about $300 and something, $20,000 a year maintenance of effort funds, and we give some of that money to Cardinal, and they then give it to the providers that they have expertise in. So that would be the group homes and Freedom House, and then the health department manages the rest and gives it to folks like Partnership for Children, Oxford House.
All right, we need a motion on this.
Yes, please.
Move for approval.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Everybody's a little slow this morning.
Might be helpful to let the students know that we choose our own rules, I guess you want to say, on how we conduct our meeting every December. So a few years ago, Commissioner Perrier brought to us, and we approved that we don't need a second to have something voted on. So that's why you only hear one motion, and the second isn't needed to go to a vote.
That way every motion gets voted on. Okay. Mr. LaBar, you would come educate us on the potential gold mine.
I hope. Good morning. As you know, I'm new director of PATS, and so we are looking for other revenue lines, and one of the requests that we've had from some community organizations and members is advertisement on our vehicles. So we looked around. There's some other counties that do this. Most of them are doing an annual fee, some are doing monthly. So I went before my board. We are looking to use 7 vehicles. We have 7 LTVs, which are the bigger buses, and we have 7 vans. The vans are a little too small to have advertisements on them. So we will be looking to just do this with half our fleet, although we probably will do some upgrades, probably about 2 upgrades in the next few years. So we'll have probably a total of 9 vehicles that this can be used for. So before you today or this morning is kind of a contract that's been looked over by the county attorney. Numbers have been approved by my Transportation Advisory Board. Initially, I only recommended 1 set of fees. They recommended doubling the fees for for-profit organizations. Many of them said that they had no problem paying that, and our vehicles are kind of a driving billboard. We put 300 and something thousand miles on our vehicles every year, and we drive all around Person County and outlying counties, so there's quite a bit of advertising available. I will say there is one change to it, and I brought this before Ms. Reeves this morning. On the 4th, as well as I think the 2nd page, instead of where it says PATS advertising statement of purpose, it's just policy. That was a requirement that we have an actual policy, not a statement of purpose. But otherwise, it's just before you today to answer any questions and approve it. We estimate an expenditure line next year of around $5,000 to be able to put these advertisements on, and a revenue line of about $20,000. So it's an extra $20,000 of revenue next year to help offset the cost of PATS.
These going to be on top of the bus on the side?
So in the pictures, and we have better pictures coming, I just was putting this together for you this morning. They will be on the sides and on the back. So you can, on the driver's side, you can put 2. They're about 42 by, I think, 17. On the 2 backs is 33 by 23, I think. And then on the side, which they call the street side, is also 42 by 17.
Mm-hmm. And so business can, it's either a 6 or 12-month commitment.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep, and so the policy also says is, say you decide to do it 12 months and then comes around to 11 months, so we go into the next fiscal year and you decide you want to keep it on, you just go ahead and get the contract going for the next year. And
are they paying up front, or
yes,
they're paying up front?
Mm-hmm. Yep, so they'll invoice. Once we get the check in hand, we'll go ahead and get the design from them, give it to the person who does the designing, and get them on the buses within the, hopefully within a week, depending on how long it takes for the design to go forward with.
What avenues have you explored to how to promote this, to get this into the community, to let them know about this change in policy?
My goal coming before you today is this will go into effect next year. So we have about 4 months where we can go out to the community, Facebook, just local advertisement, newspaper, radio, going out and talking to businesses. I've actually had some businesses come to us asking us to do this as well. So we'll just spend the next few months getting it out there, and hopefully also go outside the county. We have a lot.
I think you'll get a lot of outside of services that we don't currently offer in Person County.
Yeah, I've been, my board recommended going out to like Duke and UNC that offer health care as well. So
yeah, hospitals would, I would think.
I would like to see in the rules that you exclude any political organization.
It's in there. If you look in the purpose, or the policy side, the last page talks about what you can and can't do. Anything political, anything obscene, anything that offends somebody, anything related to that, will be restricted. So And if there's any question, then we'll bring that up before the.
That's a wide open term, anything that offends somebody.
Very true, I guess depending on how you look at that.
Let's say you're 3 months into next year and haven't really got much of a hit. Are you going to would you come back to us and look at maybe adjusting? My question is, how soon into the year would you look at readjusting the rates if you're not getting much of a hit?
I guess I would say if we have the time now to advertise and really get the word out and meet with folks, I would say 3 months is pretty reasonable to come back and say.
12-month commitment.
Well, yeah, I just want to make sure that, that there's ample time if it comes out that the rates, you mentioned yourself that your board doubled the rates on it, and I just want to make sure that we're not, this is the first time we're doing this, and sometimes when you start.
Well, I'll tell you that two that I've talked to and looked at, Rockingham County, they do a monthly rate, which I would not want to keep up with, and they charge anywhere from $400 plus a month.
Okay.
So if you do the math on that, is well beyond what we're looking to do. And then another county does $750 and $500. So it's a one-time cost.
I'm on a workforce development board for a Tri-County area, Rockingham, Castle, and Person, and they do a lot, but they have several stops in Eden and all those.
Yeah, they go quite a bit.
So they have quite a bit of buses, I imagine. I've got a question off the subject of this, but dealing with PATS, and I've been asked this several times in the community. Are we not allowed to do charter-type services, or we just haven't asked for approval to do charter-type services?
So one of the policies that was in your consent agenda is related to charter services. Because the vehicles are 90% funded, not by us, but 80% by the federal government, we are not allowed to do charter services without going through a process. So there is the ability to do it, however, it requires us to open it up to the charter services that serve our area. There's 46 options of charter services. I'll tell you that 3 of them are actually in North Carolina, but I have to reach out to them within a certain amount of time and then get their approval. So it is something we can do.
If we purchase the bus 100%, then
No problem.
you could use that bus for charter service.
Correct.
As long as it's not used
If
for
it's a
the state
locally
vehicle.
funded, the only avenue I had a little bit of discussion with my rep from the state is because our phones are considered reimbursable by the state. We'd have to watch how we go about that, since the county contributes 15% to our admin budget versus what the state gives and the federal government gives. We'd have to try to keep those numbers underneath that, or we'd have to move the phone out of the reimbursement, which is an option as well.
Gotcha.
And the good thing about the way we get the funding for the admin is whatever you don't use, you can move around. So it's not set like you have to use it for phone, you have to use it for this. If it's not used for that, you just move it to another line.
I've had a lot of local churches ask about that, because a lot of them don't keep up with having a van and things like that anymore, and had interest in it. And so I just want to know where we.
Yeah, if the county's willing to purchase a locally funded bus, then that will not be an issue because it's locally funded. But anything that
Can we
the federal
purchase one of the
government,
surplus ones when you get rid of it from the state?
I'd have to ask that question. My understanding is if we move buses like that, you can't get a new one.
Gotcha.
So, but we can ask. I'm more than happy to ask. And average bus is around, just have one hopefully be delivered this week, is about $57,000. So just in case you're looking to do that.
Thank you.
All right, need a motion to accept his proposal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
I would like to make mention that I hope the students listen to the process that just went through. When a question is asked, it's not a yes or no answer. It depends on whose money you're dealing with. It depends on what it's being used for and a lot of different things. So the general public thinks it's a little bit easier to just think it's cut and dry, but it's not. And just want to make y'all aware of the process that we have to go through on some of these items. All right, Ms. Ms. York. I don't know where that came from.
I have a new policy before you today. And you know, I've been doing a lot of policy work, cleaning up things for our organization and introducing new policies. So this one before you today is governing our mobile devices, anything from cell phones, tablets, that we use to conduct day-to-day business. And as you might imagine, every job these days requires some advanced technology to effectively work. So this policy is trying to not only use county resources wisely, but also meet a lot of the regulations that are now coming into play with our use of cell phones specifically. Those include IRS requirements, Fair Labor Standards, and of course, public information. So the way that we have been operating with cell phones up to this point has been to give an employee a stipend for use of their personal phone to conduct county business. But we are wanting to transition now from the stipend-based system to county-owned devices. And there are a lot of reasons why this makes sense, but one of them would be that the phone then remains the property of Person County government. So there is no longer any expectation of privacy, and how that's useful is that if you receive a request for public information, it's very easy to hand over your phone because it would only be used for business purposes only. The phones would be assigned then to a particular position, and we've gone through quite a lengthy process of evaluating needs of cell phones and smartphones for job functions here. Also, if an employee terminates their position with us, it's very easy to cut off access to county resources with the county-owned device. They would hand the phone back in, or if not, we have the ability then to shut it down on the county end. We're also seeing that most other local governments are going through this transition of stipends back to county-owned devices. So we would be kind of following the best practices that we're seeing with other local governments. The financial impact of cell phones, as you might imagine, is somewhat large. We're looking next year for costs of cell phone devices to be about $144,000. We're currently paying about $121,000, but as we've evaluated the need for phones, we have increased our users. So we have about 200 county-owned devices that will be administered and rolled out as of July 1 if this policy is approved by the board. And this also includes giving cell phones to county commissioners. We feel like you would be one of the first ones to get a request for public information, and so you would have a phone that you would use just for county business, and when that request is received, it'd be very easy for us then to turn over text messages, phone call logs. All of that is public information when you're conducting county business. So we're increasing our users by about 25, and then there is also a cost for us to implement text message archiving, which requires us to maintain these text messages on county devices for a period of time. So this policy addresses all of those needs that we're now facing in this technology world. The policy would become effective, as I mentioned, July 1, and that's because there's a fiscal impact to this as well. What questions can I answer for you? There's a copy of the proposed policy in your packet as well as an abstract.
You're going to have to buy all new phones?
We would contract with a service provider who would roll out phones to everybody. They would be county-owned, so there's no purchase requirement on the commissioners or county employees for this.
Are you going to have each one's going to have a different number?
Yes. Yes.
Which carrier you going to use?
We're going to use Verizon. Mm-hmm.
They give you any special rate on the phone?
They do. There's actually quite a bit of savings, and we also use something called MiFis, which are hotspots that employees can have access to web service and internet, and the phones would negate the use for that. So there's also some savings in no longer needing those devices.
Since you said that about the hotspot, might be a question for Chris, but I was in a meeting in Burlington last Wednesday, and I could, apparently they had some type of hotspot. I mean, this was not downtown, but they had some type of hotspot that I could log on. Given that I already have Spectrum internet, I could choose the Spectrum one and use my login password, and I had access to Wi-Fi. And they also had a Time Warner cable when you could hook up. Is that something that they decide to roll out in different cities or counties, or how can we see about getting Roxborough on that list? Because we have a lot of Spectrum internet users, I assume, already in the county.
Would you like to answer that, Chris?
So we can certainly look into that. Typically, I believe Spectrum they partner with businesses. And Spectrum being the cable provider here, when I reference them, they partner with businesses to basically put in a cable modem there and then provide free Wi-Fi off of that. This is different, is what she's looking at.
Oh, I understand that, but she was on the subject, so that's why I threw it out there.
Yeah, that is certainly a possibility and something that we could maybe look at as an economic development thing to try to get out there as well. I'll certainly look into that.
All right, now, what dollar figure are you dealing with?
I'm sorry?
What dollar figure, what's the?
The annual cost for this is going to be about $144,000. That includes the text message archiving service and a few other fees. So it's an increase of what you're paying now by $22,500, almost $23,000.
But to buying the phones and everything's going to cost how much?
Yes.
That's included in that?
Yes.
The devices themselves are actually free to us with activation of the service. So they give us the smartphone or a basic phone, and they also give us a bill credit for the first month of $100 as well for each activation.
Okay.
What type of commitment with the contract?
I believe, so we're currently on a federal contract, we're switching to a state contract. I believe as it stands, it is not an actual month-to-month contract or any term contract. We can essentially cancel service at any time for any device, and we do not have to pay a termination fee for that. If that has changed, the most it will be is a one-year contract, and I will have to look into that further.
What about if you've got a phone and it's damaged, insurance policy?
So I'm not looking at doing the insurance policy because we're getting the devices for free themselves, and there are some avenues. We're going to put cases on the devices, and there's some other avenues that we can discuss about how we can cover those in the event they get damaged. But the coverage is about $13 a month per device, and then you have to pay a $150 fee in the event it's actually damaged. So for that monthly cost plus the fee to actually get it fixed, we can essentially buy another device for the same price or less. But there's some other options we have as well to replace that device.
I have a question for Manager York.
Yes.
These will be over 200 users in the county.
Right.
By a county-owned device. Address a little bit, and I've read it, but address it, please, about personal use of those devices for personal business, for calls, texts.
That's right. So we are trying to be as transparent as possible and to separate personal use. So for most folks, this will mean that they're required to carry 2 phones if they want to have a phone for personal use. This phone would be for business purposes specifically. Everything is monitored on it. There's no privacy. It's for business. Now, if you have an emergency and you need to make a call to check on a spouse or something, I mean, those things would be permissible, but this really is a county business tool, and we would be monitoring use of that to make sure that it remained for county business only.
What's the employee feedback with carrying 2 phones? I know I have enough trouble keeping 1 phone,
Sure.
much less carrying around 2. What do the employees think of carrying around 2 phones?
I don't think anybody likes the idea of having to carry 2 devices, but the privacy piece and the ease of being able to comply with the public records request, makes it a little more palatable for most folks. But it would be, the policy of the county to have phones for these positions.
What if, let's say a director, department head refused, that they didn't want a county phone?
I believe this states that it's a requirement of the job, and that's not, if it's a position that we have to be able to have access to, there's a whole form with criteria for, public safety and for employees who work out in the field and who have to be on call. There's all sorts of criteria. So it's a part of the job, then you don't have really a choice in that. So it's attached to the position. There's an expectation that you would need cell phone or smartphone in order to do your job. And this would be how we would use those. It's actually not permissible to have employees using their personal phones for county business and us not compensate them. That's against the law. So this would allow us to comply with the law and the regulations that we're under for technology use. Yes, please try to, please.
If I can address Commissioner Prater's question real quick. So in my department, we discussed it as well about the 2 devices. Not a fan of it either. None of us really were, but I do have some feedback that I've actually gotten from some social services workers. They like the fact that they are going to have an additional device because they don't want clients having their personal phone number. They like the ability to say if they're not on call, then that client should not be contacting them, especially on their personal device. So I have had some feedback on that. Again, my department itself, we discussed it. It's not something any of us wanted to do, but we felt it was what the need of the organization was, and therefore that was our recommendation to move forward. Against our personal preferences, but for the business decision, it made sense.
Thanks.
Is there, I know back in the day you could have 2 lines to a phone. I'm sure you probably can now. Is that still a possibility?
So, yes, that can be done. That would be against our policy, and the reason for that is, so this is not just a cell phone policy, it's a full mobile device policy. And while that covers the phone calls and text messages piece, for the folks who are looking to use the data side of it and the email and things like that, we are requiring that it be a county-owned device for them to access the email via the app. Because of the way it archives and stores that data on the phone, there's a greater risk to have that data compromised if that device is a personally owned device and they've got full control over that.
So that policy makes us the, well, we can't infuse one. I mean, what if we didn't want one? We can't have my email on my phone anymore?
So the county policy at this point would be that we would disable email access on all personal devices. You can still access webmail, but you would not have the actual mail app available to you on the phone.
The issue I have with us is my cell phone's been on the county website for 10 years. Nobody's going to call this new number. I mean, in my opinion, and you're handicapping me by taking my email off my cell phone. I mean, you're making us do as well, is what I'm saying.
Right. It's the same inconvenience that we would all go through.
Now, what impact does it have on that? In other words, you would set up a separate email account on your iPad starting July 1st for all county correspondence? Am I missing something?
That would not change.
Correct. So basically, the county email account that you all have that is on your iPads or on your personal phones, it would stay on the iPads because those are county-owned devices. They're managed and maintained by the county. As far as the other piece of that, though, with the county email, we don't have a good mechanism aside from completely wiping your personal device in the event that gets lost, stolen, or misplaced. So the only mechanism we currently have today, if something happens to that device, is to completely wipe it, which means your personal pictures, documents, things like that, personal text messages, voicemails, you lose all of that. And that is another reason we wanted to look at, not just for the security side of things, but for the individual personal privacy. We don't want to completely wipe someone's personal device and then have them find it and then it's our fault that that device was wiped because we were concerned about compromising security.
I got you, but
All right.
I'm speaking, okay, this I got, I understand, I mean, I understand that you could go in there and wipe this thing clean probably in 30 seconds from that. But my personal phone, so you're gonna give the commissioners another phone as well.
That's what we're proposing.
But what I wanna know is, are you gonna change the email address? I'm told like Ray now,
He doesn't have a county email.
Right, if they're not using a county.
So
I mean, I just need to know.
It would be my recommendation, now granted, you can do whatever you like, public record is public record no matter where it is. My recommendation would be, yes, you use a person county email so that it's backed up and archived and things like that. But you can certainly dictate that policy however you like for yourselves.
What about if, I'm sorry, Ray.
Well, I was going to say, so we've got to have probably one of the first iPads come out, and I know we've had to replace it or whatever for whatever reason, but they have iPads now that you can do the data. What if we just wanted to, you can get a new iPad to have your email, and we don't get a phone? I mean, is that an option?
I mean, I had to correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's up to the board themselves to make that decision. You can decide whatever you like.
Yeah.
The only thing about that is going to be the emails, and the phone calls and the text, but again, that is at your discretion. But we are looking to replace those iPads because you're correct, these are actually so old that they are not compatible with the current software, and to make sure that they're secure and things of that nature, we were looking in next year's budget to replace those iPads. And we certainly could do that with a data.
Which this is my personal one because of mine is, you know,
I don't like it,
kind of slow and things.
not that part.
Don't want to do the cell phones for elected officials. Is that what I'm hearing? This is just a proposal, folks. If you don't like it, that you have the ability to make changes to it.
Well, so understand right, one thing is, I always look at, our job as county commissioners, we're no better than county employees ourselves. If we're implementing a policy for county employees, here you go, you have your cell phones, and then you say, well, we're not including us. We're not part of it. I mean, we're not full. I mean, we're not every day,
Right.
40-hour county workers, but we would be creating an exemption for ourselves, though, on that.
Well, it appears to me that we need to implement a policy that corrects the county's liability. And
That's right.
if we have to make adjustments, I think that goes along with the job. But worst case scenario, if somebody calls for all of your records, you got a mess on your hands.
And there are some features.
And anybody sitting out there could do it.
But if they say, if someone asks for our records for the last 2 years and we just implement this policy, we still got to go back on our personal.
Yes.
I mean, I understand the county's point because she's responsible for 400 employees. We're responsible for ourselves.
Yep.
In essence, I mean, but.
And just one other option to point out, there are some features that are available to us on the county plan that you as a personal individual would not have. Just as a full disclaimer, we have priority and preemption capabilities because we would be on the Verizon Public Safety Corps. So in the event of a disaster of any sort, we could actually elevate you up and give you priority and preemption on the Verizon network, or actually any of the carriers that we're looking at, we can do that. But that is specific to the account itself and not something I could give you on a personal device. Of course, we could always hand out if we needed to, do some checkout device type deal if we needed to, do something like that as well. Just full disclaimer.
All right, do we want to vote on this? We want to discuss it some more.
Where are you all in needing to implement it as far as if it was put off? I mean, is this time frame like y'all needed to pass a date because you can implement and get phones, get things started by July? Or how's this?
I mean, the biggest time pressure for us is just needing to get a number in the budget to be able to support this. But if implementation is delayed, that's something that we can work with.
Mr. Chairman, Has our attorney got any comment on this? Do you?
I don't have any comment on the policy. On the legal area, what the manager and the IT director has said about the requirement of public records is absolutely on point. Any public business is available to the public, whether it's on your personal device or a county-owned device. This policy seems to give you the ability to protect your personal information, and you may be able to protect it, but it'd be much harder with your personal device than it would be for a county-owned device.
So, let's see, 2009, I was at a NACO conference, and I heard about this IRS rule that with our county cell phones, that if they were caught using it for personal use, then we could be fined. And so that's where we went from
nothing.
County-owned to a stipend. And
Yeah.
now that IRS rule is no longer in place. Is
That's
that correct?
correct.
I actually did go to the beach to say I was learning something for the county.
They did change that rule.
You told me to go to another one. All right, what we want to do about it?
Mr.
I'm going to
Chairman,
ask one more question before you
Please.
do this. Okay, Chris, if you take my email over there at your office off of my personal phone, can you have it to download anything that has Person County on it, if somebody wanted it? Which, you know what I'm saying? Okay, somebody request the information from my emails that I've done with the county versus what's my personal emails.
Not
You
your
understand
email.
what I'm asking you?
Not you, because you don't have a county email.
Huh?
You don't have a
I
county
don't
email.
have a county email, but if I give you my phone, can't you pick up all of my county correspondence?
If
One by
what
one.
you requested is for us to go email by email in your personal account, read the personal and the public, we certainly could if that is your
Well, see, that, the
request.
technology's there to do it anyway, as
But
far as
with-
that part
Not-
goes.
With
not
400
all
So you could
employees.
you actually could separate them. Is what I'm getting at. And I'm not saying I'm for it or against it right this second, but I'm just trying to point that out, that I understand when I was using it, that if I text
It's not a
Heidi or
one-click.
email Heidi, or if I email him, I understood when I emailed him that probably was gonna be a public record.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm dealing with public business.
Yeah.
If it's in a closed session, I'm not gonna do anything with it. I may call them and ask them a question about it, but I'm not gonna put it in writing because I understand that it could be used it could be in the newspaper next week. But you do have the ability to take it. I may have to give you permission, but you have the ability to get it.
But it's not a
That's
one-click thing because you
Right.
don't have a county email. He's got to go through each one just like you would.
I didn't say it was easy. I asked if it could be done.
There are many ways.
It's not easy to get on the moon, but they can get there.
There are many ways to handle it, yes, sir. Our preference is
Well,
certainly.
you're gonna be the one that goes
easiest
through there
and
and
quickest.
decides what.
Not necessarily. If I give it to him, give him permission to find anything that's
Well-
got a Person County tag to it.
Doesn't
I don't
need
want
permission.
it. I already got it.
Don't need permission to do it either.
I'm just trying to ask all of the questions now because I understand carrying two phones. I played that game. I done that when I worked for the state. You had it originally when they first came out with cell phones and they were kind of bulky, but if you had your personal one, you carried one they had too. So doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I can live with it because I've done it before. So, you know, it's just,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion.
and technology's better than it was when I did it before. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
Make a
sir.
motion to table this to our next meeting.
All righty, it has been tabled to the next meeting. All in favor of the table, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Ms. York?
Yes, this is just an announcement of our next meeting needing to be held in the auditorium versus the boardroom. Our elevator in this building will be out of service, and we won't be able to provide or comply with access for ADA. So we'd like to hold the meeting on April 15th in the auditorium.
Move to approve the changes.
Modernization.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I wrote it when I had my surgery.
All right. Ms. Tate?
I got my surgery next week.
I was on the elevator, so I read
Good
it.
morning again. This item is for a small grant request. However, it does require some
maybe a week.
Some skin in the game from the county, so wanted to share that with you. This is for a single electric vehicle charging station. It's through the state Clean Fuel Advanced Technology Grant, and it would be installed on the museum property, and I've shared this with the museum board, and they agreed that they would like to have a charging station installed there. The grant requires a match, and I've talked with TDA, and TDA board members are willing to provide the match for this grant. It's about a $5,000 match. The total project cost is about $10,000, so they're willing to do approximately half, which includes the electric upgrade that would be needed. And the commissioners, we're asking your approval to have it installed on the museum, on your property, because you all own the museum property. And also, it will have a very small impact to the electric bill, which the county currently pays. The museum is willing to pay the annual networking fee, which is about $60 a year, in hopes that they will attract more visitors to the museum. When you charge at one of these stations, it takes about an hour. So people will charge their vehicle, hopefully come into the museum, pay the fee and buy something at the gift shop, and then maybe go uptown and have lunch. And that's also why the tourism folks are interested in it as well. So that's the overview of the grant. I would ask too that we have applied for this grant and similar grants in the past, and for various reasons, it's never worked out. So I would ask that in the event that it doesn't work out this time, if the board would be willing to fund the remaining $5,000 and treat the TDA $5,000 as a match, essentially. So I guess there's kind of two options. One is just to do the grant, and if we don't get it, then that's it. Or two, to pursue the grant. In the event that we don't get it, the county would pay the remaining $5,000.
When would you know if you got the grant or not?
I believe sometime this summer. So.
It'd be nice to have in place during the summer when people are vacationing. One client of mine has a Tesla, and when he went from here to somewhere up north, it highlighted everywhere there was a charging station. So if someone decides to take that scenic route, it could bring them right on through downtown Roxborough.
Yep, this would be the one and only EV charging station that I'm aware of in the county.
At the moment.
At the moment, yes. There could be others, obviously.
All right, we have a motion.
Move for approve the request.
All right, what request?
Apply for the grant first, and then if they don't, or you want all that in one motion, or?
Yeah, whichever you choose. Yeah.
All right, so if they get the grant, TDA pays it?
They'll pay for about $5,000, and then the grant would kick in the remaining $5,000. However, the second part of that request would be if the grant doesn't come through, if you all be willing to fund the remaining $5,000.
Is that your motion?
Yep.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, cut the meat on. All right, Sybil, we got you one more item here.
Okay, this is meant to be like a work session item. So I hope you all will be willing to engage in some good discussion here. This is the strategic plan that you all asked for at your budget retreat. If you'll recall, there was interest from the board to have a 5-year strategic plan that really came from the commissioners. And so I had a presentation. Okay, thank you. Oh, yes. Just before we begin talking about objectives, your objectives, I wanted to quickly run a very rough schedule by you and get your feedback on this.
And you switch on the side.
There we go. Thanks. Okay, so I'm proposing approximately 4 meetings. There could be more, obviously, depending on the amount of discussion and edits and changes to get you through this plan. This initial session, work session, is really to kind of hear from you all about what your objectives are and what your goals are for the next 5 years. Once I have that information, and I will take that and compile it and create separate, probably about 5 categories to kind of put that in to organize it. And I'll bring that back to you and then get your feedback on that. And then my plan is to have internal implementation teams. So, if there's a goal or objective around public safety, I'd work with the sheriff and EMS to kind of further dig down a little bit deeper into what the actions and strategies might be for moving forward on that. And then my plan is to present something to you at your May 6th meeting. And included in that not only would be goals, objectives, and strategies, but also the cost associated with each of the actions. And that would be included as part of your budget. Do you all have any questions or recommendations on the schedule? Okay.
I think we're handicapping ourselves a little bit by doing just an hour before our 7 p.m. meeting in case we got a good workflow going. We got to stop because we got a regular meeting to start. I mean, I like the idea of us meeting like now, like after the meeting, and I understand that we only have one of these a month, but maybe we try the first one and we'll see. We might be on 30 minutes, or we might want to spend an hour and a half. I mean.
Okay. Would you like to move that time up then?
Maybe we can see how the April 1st one works. And
okay.
See.
All right. So you want to start at 6 and try that out? Okay. All right. Okay. Really quickly, I'm sure you all are familiar with strategic plans, but I've spent some time looking at other county strategic plans. Almost everybody has one. They all have commonalities. Of course, they have goals. Usually there's, 5 to 6 goals. And I've given an example of a goal that's pretty common, and that's government efficiency. Other goals are, education, economic development, things like that. And then they have objectives, and that's kind of breaking down those goals a little bit further. And an example of an objective might be to improve our bond rating from AA- to AA by 2020. So usually those have dates in them. And then actions and strategies kind of breaks down those objectives a bit further into very specific actions that can be taken. So for example, following the improving the bond rating, the action or strategy might be to present the debt model to the bond rating agencies in fiscal year 2021.
Why is our rating low as it is?
That's based on the bond ratings.
Is that based
category.
on the ability to pay it back?
It's a number of factors. The fact that we don't have some policies in place impacts it. We've talked about the fact that we don't have a fund balance policy, for example. We don't have a debt model. Those things help enhance your financial standing.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So our little rules for fund balance does not consider it being a policy, so to speak.
Correct.
And then finally, most all strategic plans have measures. So those are things that you track to make sure that you're moving forward with your goal. And so the example here would be the bond rating. So just wanted to kind of, give you a brief overview. And with that, I wanted to have a discussion with you all about what your objectives are for the next 5 years. And if you could get those to me after the meeting, and then I can begin to kind of put them in different categories. So I wanted to open the floor and let you all begin that discussion. Who would like to go first?
I think, go ahead.
I was just going to get you started, so you're ready. Go for it.
I think personally what we need to do is pick one or two items and target that and achieve it and then go do something else. If we try to bite off too many different items, we probably get scattered around and lose interest.
Okay.
My personal preference would be to get the school system and a workforce development set up as soon as possible, because I think from the show of hands a little while ago, I think people would think twice about thinking about going to college if they could get a pretty good job right out of high school. Albeit, if it didn't cost you a whole lot of debt to go to college, that'd be the best 4 years of your life. But if you go to college and wind up with $50,000 of debt when you get through, and all you can get is a $50,000 job, that's going in the wrong direction. But that's what a majority of the students are facing right now when they graduate. They can't pay for the education they just supposedly got. But that would be my number one priority. But
and would that be in regards to the mega sites? You're talking about workforce development?
Well, what I hope to achieve is for us to have a workforce development that will train whoever we recruit to come to this county. Whether they come to the mega site is not the objective. The objective is to be able to sit down with a business that you're trying to recruit and show them that you have a system in place to train our students, at least give them the opportunity to be trained to do a job so that they've got a job when they get out of high school. They've got the option of taking that job or they can go to college, but or do whatever they want to. I just think from a economic development tool, if you had something like that in place, people would look at you a whole lot better. You know, right now, they kind of use the reason that most of the places wind up in your higher population areas is because I don't know that there's a training process in place, but their likelihood of getting the people they need is much greater if it's in a more populated area. So for us to compete, I think we need to make an aggressive move to actually put something in place to make something happen.
Right. And you had also mentioned the school system. Were you viewing that in terms of?
I want to introduce this in middle school.
Okay.
For advanced manufacturing.
Okay.
From talking with Dr. Peterson, he did something similar to that, or he was involved with it down in Johnston County. And so he's familiar with what it's going to take to get it done. He said his biggest obstacle was facilities, and that's something that hopefully the legislature is going to help them with the new bond that they're voting on. Plus, we're going to have to step forward and start doing some stuff too. But that would be my number one priority. The other one would be to, well, since we've got a captive audience here this morning, if I could indulge some of the students, what would have to be in Roxborough for y'all to consider staying, coming back here to live, or not leaving to start with?
Blurt it out. You don't have to raise your hand. What'd he say?
Chick-fil-A. Well, I'm gonna tell you, Chick-fil-A is a very good place to eat, but it's based solely on traffic count. And so, if y'all stay here, that might come a little quicker. But, you know, we sit up here and most of us are over the hill, and we grew up with different types of entertainment, and we really have trouble understanding or even knowing what excites y'all and what will generate an atmosphere that will attract the younger generation. I mean, it's no different. You know, my parents couldn't understand me, and it's hard for us to understand our children, and That's just human nature. But, you know, the world's changing pretty quick, and we need to have a little bit of guidance up here as to what is it y'all have a demand for. I mean, you know, business usually takes care of itself. You go to a place like Durham, you got everything, but that includes crime and a lot of traffic. But, you know, the things that the next generation has interest in and pursues, they survive. But the other things that you don't pursue, they wind up going broke and closing down. So, you know, what is it that we can do from a county standpoint? Of course, you know, the main objective from a government standpoint is we don't create jobs, but we have to be able to present an atmosphere where jobs can be created. That's roads, that's water lines, sewer lines. We got plenty of electricity in this county, so that's not a problem. But, you know, actually I'm asking for advice, because we need to, I know you don't have an answer today, but that certainly would probably be worthwhile forming a committee to.
A mall?
Well,
maybe what we could do is incorporate a survey, a youth survey, as part of this strategic plan. Maybe that could be one of our objectives.
I think it'd be worth.
From everything I read, most of it's going to all venture around quality of life, and that includes technology, things to do, places to go. Technology for a rural county impacts everything, from where people build, where your population goes, where some of these committees I serve on, some of these farmers are reducing their labor because of these GPS tractors. But nobody out in the northern part of the county can use those because you don't have access to much of anything. I haven't built on the farm yet because I got to have satellite for internet and everything else. I mean, that's huge. That's going to impact, I think, a lot. What I would like to see us to do, in addition to what the chairman's talking about and kind of in line with what's something I've been saying for years, is we are attracting jobs that we're not training people at PCC for. So we're attracting jobs for other people. Or we're training people at PCC for something that we're not attracting here to the county. So we're training those people to leave. And it has to go hand in hand. And so if it's advanced manufacturing, you know, what type? Right now we're tied very heavily to the automotive industry. So should we be teaching people at PCC how to build drive lines and different things to help with GKN and even in some of these places, or even AW, which is, I mean, across the county line? But what do we want to be? Do we have a mission statement as far as, other than it's better than person? Why is it better in person? What are we doing that's better in person? I don't want to, I have no, and I hate to say it publicly, but I have no faith in our leadership at TDA right now to market our county effectively. I go to other counties and I see billboards that say, hey, come to South Boston, come to this county, come here, and I see nothing about Person County. Not even, I mean, we had a billboard one time on the boulevard in Person County for TDA. I mean, where are our marketing outside? Hey, this is what we're doing in Person County. When I go to Wake County, I see billboards for Mecklenburg, for Charlotte. You go to Charlotte, you see billboards for Raleigh, Greenville, South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, where are we in this? How are we going to market ourselves? Are we just going to hope it's going to just drop out the cloud for us and that we don't have to put any work to do it? And that's one thing I want us to understand is, what do we want to be? If it's manufacturing, then that's what we need to go after. We need to be training people. If it's, they have a huge nursing program over there, if we decide that we're right here next to the city of medicine and that's where it's best to put our bucks in it, then we need to be putting in some more money in this allied health thing that they wanted years ago. I mean, but we've got to decide where we want to be so we know where to put our bucks.
And we do, in your upcoming budget, we're looking at funding a land use plan, a comprehensive land use plan, which should get some feedback from citizens about the future of what they see the county becoming. But, okay.
I want to say something about infrastructure. You got to have the water and the sewer. I think Sherry's doing the best that she could do with EDC, trying to pursue anything that she saw that was a grant. And you heard Mr. Newell say a while ago that we went to Senator Burr and Senator Tillis's office when we were in Washington last week. We talked about infrastructure, and actually when...
The bad thing about it, neither one of them knew anything about the mega site.
But the thing about it was the economic development guy up there with one of those offices did get back with us. And so me and Sherry actually had a conference call with somebody from FDA. We didn't get anything, promises out of anybody, but at least we were making them aware that we're here. And also, seems to be some movement on trying to help rural counties with some of these infrastructure things. You know, we need to be sure we try to keep up with that. Most of the time, if you contact them, they'll call you back, but they don't contact you sometimes. You've got to kind of prod them along. And, you know, but water and sewer is important. We sort of neglected the 158 East corridor, but if you look that way, you see that the State Highway Department has, you know, that's where they ran that fiber project that they were looping around the state. They came up 158, and Governor Martin had it as a priority, and it sort of dropped off the radar, but they four-laned that road on the other end from the coast coming this way. I think it'll come back to life again at some point in time.
So that's your priority area, is that the southeastern part of the county?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, if you, let's just say that you ran a water line to the landfill area down there, you also, not only have you got the water down there, but you've also got transmission lines across 158 between here and the Granville County line. So, you know, if you look at projects like that, it could, and you got to have the infrastructure. You know, you can get these other things here now. I think Commissioner Newell is exactly right. We've got to start with the, we've got a lot to do. We've got to see where the schools are at with what they want. We know that we've seen some preliminary stuff on it. We've got some work sessions. I guess, you know, is what they want realistic? Is the state going to help fund any of it? Is there something else? Is maybe we're not looking, maybe we're looking too close at it. Maybe we get back and look a little bit farther. Maybe it's something else that would serve the same purpose that maybe wouldn't cost quite as much. And I hate to put cost into it, but that's just a fact of life. You got to look at it. You got to be able to afford it some way. If the state doesn't fund some of it, we can't fund it. It's just the way it is, the way the whole system's set up in North Carolina. You know, so we've got the educational facilities and you've got your infrastructure. Both are going to cost a lot of money. They're not cheap.
That's one of the first parts, I think, then is realizing where our resources are. So if those are transmission lines on 158, you know, down east, they're starting a 4-lane 158. I think in the past, we have just assumed that we need to go toward Durham up 501. But a few years ago, and Jimmy, myself, and Kyle were on the board, and we were trying to do something with Durham. We were looking for land out there to do some type of industrial park. We couldn't find large tracts of land out in the southern part of the county. There's a whole lot of subdivisions and things out in that area.
Right.
And so maybe we have to look somewhere else to put those resources if we want to run sewer and water and things like that, because it may not be going towards Durham because of the population, or the residential population out in that area. So we have to kind of see maybe where our resources are, where we can look at other than what we've done in the past, you know.
Well, you need water and sewer for the houses too.
That's true. Yeah. But if we're going to, if we're going to do advanced manufacturing, then I imagine we're going to be looking for property and things to do industrial parks. If we're going to say we're going to embrace this, we're going to be a retirement community and senior community, then yeah, we put those infrastructure out to those areas that are going to build houses and you know, and those type of things. But that's where I'm saying we don't. What are we going to be?
Right.
Either or.
We looked at water going out 158 when I first got on the board because it had some contamination of some wells out there in the Morristown area from gasoline, petroleum tanks, and but we never could figure out a way to. We were trying to. Actually, back at that time, there was a lot of what they called FHA money, Farm Home Administration money available, but we never could get a grant together to do that, so it never really got done. But we were pursuing it, particularly because some of those folks had some contamination. Also, if you look out in that area out there, you've got a fire departments out there, you've got our park out there. You've got the landfill area out there, and I think that we ought to be preparing for the future with that landfill area. You know, they may need water down the road out there for the residents in that area, for anything else that you've got out there. So I think it's...
Also, when the state ran broadband all over the state, doesn't ours go through 158 through our county?
Yes, the MCNC does. And you all have made some, I mean, great strides with the
Oh,
broadband,
yeah.
and it's still coming online, so, you know, we have 2 towers up and 2 more slated to come up, and your fiber's almost done. We just have a few more months, so that stuff is really moving forward at a good pace.
So back to my original question, do we have a mission statement for the county?
Is that something that you all would like to do as part of the strategic plan, or are you suggesting it to do it as part of the land use plan? What are you thinking?
I mean, I was thinking strategic.
Okay.
Plan, but I mean, you know more about the land use plan than I do, if that's more appropriate place. I'm trying to give Sheriff's Office something to market.
Okay.
If it's,
Okay.
you know, where we
Yeah.
are with business and what we're training here for.
Okay, if you all, you know, want to spend some time working on a mission statement, then we can put that on the agenda for your next work session.
That ought to be also incorporate EDC.
Any other thoughts or feedback? I mean,
One
I've got-
thing,
Oh,
and we want to talk about infrastructure and quality of life in relation to a long-term plan for solid waste as well. You know, we've got a recycling facility here that we want to keep up. We want to make sure that they stay in business. And this is a can that's been kicked around for several years now, but from the quality of life aspect of it, especially in our northern part of the county, which is the furthest from the landfill, I wouldn't mind looking at doing an experimental site for convenient recycling.
okay.
Especially probably the southern county where the population is.
Hmm?
Especially the southern part of the county where the most of the residents are.
So the northern and the southern, so 2 locations then?
I said southern. That's-
I said
okay.
northern.
Oh, you said northern?
I said northern,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
it's the furthest drive. Because usually, just the fact is, it's, if you live on the very far northern spot, northern Person County, it's a lot
Yeah,
less that
far.
you're going to drive into town just to recycle. You more or less see it on a side road somewhere, down in a ditch. And I know we've done better at that over the years, but I think that would be something that if we made it more convenient for residents to participate in, you may see better efficiency at the recycling facility.
And I think some of the low-hanging fruit that can be involved in the plan is something that Kyle mentioned, something some of our applicants for EDC Commission mentioned, and some Sam Kennington mentioned 8 years ago, was some type of beautification type
Okay.
efforts to the county.
They're doing that. They're doing the boulevard.
That's a county.
So that would be litter collection
Something, yeah.
on the
some-
side of the road?
I think
Okay,
that's the way Sam Kennington put it, some type of beautification
okay.
efforts. Ray did a good job with our new signs when you enter into the county.
Any other thoughts?
So where are we now?
Well,
In regards to your request
Um,
to us as a board,
yes.
so
So I had to ask each of you to come up with your objectives. And I've received one email with those objectives.
record.
Yes, it's public record. But I would like to if you have more specifics than what we've just discussed, if you could send that to me, that would be very helpful in terms of, you know, being able to categorize the plan. And also, I think, help, you know, lead us more forward with a mission statement, if that's something that you want to work on at the next meeting.
Maybe part of this land use program that I said program, but land use.
The comprehensive land use plan?
Plan.
Yes.
That I had one citizen mention to me, and I told him I would bring it up at the board meeting, was these billboards on 501. They felt like we've got too many going out of Durham. Once you get to Durham, you see, you don't see quite as many. Is that what we want? Is that what we want to be?
Okay.
Coming into the county is,
right.
Billboards. And so.
Okay.
I had no opinion on either way, but I did tell him I would bring it to the board, and maybe that's better suited on that land use.
Okay. Yeah, that would be that'd be a good use of that plan to answer that question. So back to Commissioner Powell's question, if you all could send me, if you have more specific information, if you could send that to me, that will help me compile it. I'll include these notes that I have from you all.
Well, if we agree with the chairman that we need to concentrate on one or two issues, it would be nice to know what those are before we leave here today.
Okay. If you all would prefer to do it that way versus, kind of your typical, 4 to 5 goals, then we can,
That's why I asked,
we can do
we
it that way.
agree that we need one or two. My goal was to have something 4 to 5 years, something that we can actually see get done. And I said 4 to 5 years because that's what our terms are. So at least if we start on this path, Kyle and David are here to help guide, if there's new commissioners, the process of, hey, where we're going to go through the next 4 years, so to speak, instead of some 10-year plan that'll just get on the shelf and we won't be able to find 10 years from now. So
I would say look at, if you want to do 1 to 2, that's going to be 4 to 5 years, but you also have some low-hanging fruit out there that's not going to take that long.
Okay.
But you can do that alongside with this.
Okay. So do you
I
have?
just want us to agree on 1 or 2 that we're going to put some meat behind. Because when we did this thing with Sam Kennington, we involved the citizens. They came up with all these great ideas, and we picked all the little low-hanging fruit, but when it got time to spend some money, we hadn't seen it since. And so that's what I don't want to happen here. So if we pick 1 or 2 items that we know we're going to have to spend some money on, that we're in agreement that we're going to work toward to do that. And yes, you can find a little low-hanging fruit, like the beautification or the litter, that type of things.
Right.
But we need to agree on 1 or 2 things that we really feel that it's this board's responsibility to put some resources behind.
Okay.
Well, I think now is probably a very unique time. We know we're getting ready to put a lot of money into the school system. And if we can coordinate that with the school board so that those dollars not only refurbish the buildings, but they also work towards this workforce development situation. I think you could maybe kill 2 birds with 1 stone for some degree, not all of it, but I think it's worth conversation just to find out how you can take what money we are going to spend and spend it, not just move a ramp at a Woodland or something like that, although that's got to be done. But, how do we, especially when incorporating the high school, how do we make that $4 or $5 million we're going to have to spend on whatever site there is, and just put it to better use.
I just want to clarify, when you're talking about workforce development, you're talking about middle school programming, not PCC? Or are you talking about both?
I'm talking about starting in middle school and going all the way through PCC.
Okay.
And what happens in middle school is not so much hands-on, but to introduce them to the middle school children, people, to what the new jobs of the future are going to look like. And that includes building robots and whatever else. They don't even know what the jobs are going to be yet.
So right now, they can go to the early college, come out with a 2-year associate degree. More or less, that's probably just general studies, so they're going to have a lot of their general ed courses probably taken care of where they can go off to college and finish in 2 years. What you're talking about is more or less maybe the ones that choose that path, they can come out also with a trade certification. Maybe they're ready to go to work in HVAC or something like that, or this manufacturing for the type of companies we want to attract. Is that correct?
Well, it is, yeah, but, it's not that you are trying to push them in one direction or another. You appreciate you coming. I'm just saying that we need to introduce them to the future and help them get there. And so, the sooner you start, the better off you are. Kind of the process now is you get out of high school, you decide to go get a job, or you go to college. And depending on how well you did in high school, depends on how well qualified you do either one. You don't know how to do a job because you've not been trained for it. You could get on-job training, but, all I'm saying is with this process, the further head start you give them, the better off they're going to be, regardless of what they do. And if we're going to become a bedroom community of Durham, that's still going to be an advantage because schools are the first thing they look at when they come to the county, or before they decide to come to the county. People are not going to come here to raise a kid if you've got a 50% graduation rate. Something's wrong with the system there. So that's all I'm getting at.
And once we identify the resources like you've done already in Halifax County, because they're all not going to come from Person County. And we don't need to think that everything has to come within our county lines, because since I've been on this board, we haven't lost one company yet to Durham. There've always been some small town in some other state that we never heard of, just like they were hearing about Roxborough, North Carolina, and they could possibly go there. So our competition isn't necessarily right around us anymore.
Right.
It's global, it's nationwide, statewide. And so we don't need to not identify resources that could help our citizens just because they're across the county line, or state line.
So, I've talked about education, and some of you guys have been on this board as long as I've been around in education. And the statement's already been made, when it comes to a commitment or funding, it doesn't happen. And I was firsthand recipient of that, 12 years on the school board. I preached that and talked to you folks about that while you're on that board all those years. And it didn't come to fruition because there was a lack of commitment. And there was not a plan. As already stated, we don't have a vision. We don't have a mission, a statement that we will adhere to. And the old saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And I think we've taken any road that comes along. And education is a necessity. And it should be a priority, not only to this board, but to the citizens of this county. And the educational system in the county has managed to sort of keep its nose above water, so to speak, over the years through commitment, through hard work, and through putting the right people in the right place to make things happen. But we have not put the funds in place to change things, to advance, to make a difference. And that difference maker is going to be, and we keep hearing this, a commitment to education along the lines of a more advanced student that we'll only get when we put a focus on that in our county. So we can start early with some PR with students in the early grades and progress on through high school and through community college. But, we've talked about the 21st century now for 19 years. So what are we doing? We aren't doing anything. And it's time for this board to stand up and put the right foot forward and commit to our students and their education. Then we're going to have economic development if we focus it in the right direction. We aren't going to be able to develop a mega site without a budget and a plan and a commitment. And that commitment, folks, is money. I mean, there's no way around that. We've got to commit. And we talk about what's happening in other counties. We see that commitment in other counties throughout the state. And if we want to be in the game, we've got to have the resources to do it with. So, one of the things I submitted to you was, with education, put a plan in place and a commitment in place that we're going to fund education adequately, and that's both public schools and Piedmont Community College. And we do that in coordination with what is needed in industry, and it's high-tech jobs. It is not the normal, even as has been mentioned, farming is high-tech now. It's quite a bit of difference there. So again, we need that commitment to education. I would say we need a designated line item on our tax bill that would go directly to education. Then citizens know where their money is going. And that would be a right step forward. And then get into economic development. We need a new industrial park. The county doesn't have any property to sell and market. And we do need, again, a new industrial site that we could promote and develop. That again takes commitment and money. And we need to set aside a separate line item and commit a certain amount of money to an industrial park and economic development over the next, well, we could begin that with this year's budget for that matter. So on the short end, 5 years would not, I wouldn't want to wait that long. So we need to take a look at who we are, where we are, and what we're doing, and make a commitment to do something about it. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Is there consensus around the two concepts here? I'm hearing interest in kind of capital school funding and operating funding for the schools. And I'm also hearing the economic development, but specifically a new industrial park. Is there consensus around those 2 or 3 items from the board as your priorities?
Well, under those priorities, then you would develop an A, B, C, D
Yes.
right on down the line. So
Yes.
there are connectors there to all of those. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That's what I would take then your feedback and your objectives that you all send me and kind of put those underneath those goals, if you will, and get more specific. So those 3 are kind of the key goals, and then as Commissioner Puryear pointed out, there might be some other kind of low-hanging fruit that we've talked about that we could tackle more easily, that we could also include. Is that?
That's a good start.
Okay.
And
Okay. So,
you could spend a lot of time on those 2 items.
yes. So I will spend time kind of formatting this and making it cohesive with that in mind. Our next meeting, I'll present something to you with those goals and that low-hanging fruit, and also we'll spend some time talking about a mission statement, and we'll take it from there. But thank you all.
I'm gonna throw this out there at
Sure.
the end so we can end on it.
Okay.
No conversation. I don't want much debate on it, but where are we as a board in any type of commitment with the city on trying to help with Uptown? I mean, I know we do with RD, that's not RDG anymore, but is it?
Uptown development.
But not that we need to have a bunch of discussion on it now. I don't think it's one of those low-hanging fruits because it's going to cost, but I don't think it's at the top of the tree either.
Okay.
But where are we? Where are we with
Uptown.
some type of partnership with them to help? We've heard a lot about it over the years, but where are we as a county and something that's in our purview to help with?
Okay.
We also did the Wi-Fi spots.
Yeah, which helps. But we don't have any type of formal kind of commitment or relationship that I'm aware of. We just have the organization.
We have the commitment to economic development, to share and a director and
I
support
mean, even,
the Uptown
I don't even know what their
Development
plan
Director.
is, if they got one for the next 5 years or whatever.
Okay.
If they do, maybe make us aware of it. And
Okay.
then we can see where there's ways we might can assist,
Partner.
but.
Okay. We can do that. Okay. All right. Thank you for your feedback.
I have Steve, I'll give you a call.
Yeah, please do.
All right.
County cell phone number.
Chairman's report, I don't have anything today to report on. Heidi, you got any?
No, sir, thank you.
Anybody, any other commissioner got anything you want to talk about?
I want to make a couple of comments. We went to this National Association of Counties Conference first weekend in March in Washington, D.C., and Commissioner Newell mentioned that me and him went down to see Burr and Tillich both and tried to promote Person County. That was one thing. I'm on the Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee with the National Association of Counties, and one of their big issues that they're looking at in that committee as far as environment goes is that Waters of the U.S. bill that would regulate the Corps of Engineers, and EPA would regulate waters almost in a road ditch in lots of places, and it would be a big impact. Person County is already spending a fortune on stormwater and on protecting the watershed on the south end of the county. We had acre lots up here when they hadn't ever heard of an acre lot in a lot of counties back in the late 60s and early 70s. So, you know, we've done a lot to do that. I put myself on some of those committees to try to help protect us from some of the overregulation that they do with some of these things. You got to have regulations, but you have to be careful that they don't overregulate you. And that Waters of the U.S. is a prime example of that. It's overkill. And the states that are really concerned about it are the ones that the counties have to do the roads. In lots of states, we're one of the few states that the counties don't do the roads, and it's a humongous financial impact on them when they start having to get permits from EPA and the Corps to get a road ditch cleaned out. And but anyway, if you go back and read that, or look at that, or go online and look at NACO and look at that, it's a bigger deal than it seems like it is. A lot of times it kind of gets brushed over because it's kind of, it's not exciting news. Nobody got killed, but you know, it's killing your pocketbook in the long run. I just wanted to mention that. And I also wanted to mention that while we were up at this conference, I was not on vacation. Thank you very much.
One thing I've noticed in some of the organizations, mainly let's say the State County Commission Association, even NACO, the National Association, one thing they've done to better advocate on behalf of counties is that we're no longer just talking to everybody. I mean, you know, you got to let all your legislators and your congressional people know, but we're being more strategic about it. So if there's an issue with infrastructure, then we look and see who's the ranking member on infrastructure, and we call that person from that state. And so once we start developing this plan, we need to include our legislators and encourage them to get on committees, or actually be on committees that will directly affect us. We know that the counties don't do roads, so if we're going to talk about some type of infrastructure improvements with our roads, maybe Larry needs to be on some type of DOT committee or infrastructure committee that's over there in the legislature. So I just want us to include everybody, so we're being strategic about this thing, and or even if it's a legislator in another county or another district that's on that, you know, we need to talk about the benefits that it can have to both of us and get those type people behind us and on board, so we're not just spinning wheels, so to speak.
All right.
And I wasn't able to attend the meeting with them, Brenda, so it wasn't three of us. I did set the meeting up, but
yeah, we thank you for that.
yeah, so I just...
Okay. Everybody finished? We stand in recess until 6 p.m. on April the 1st for the purpose of holding a strategic planning work session number 2.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, you finished?
Yes.
Any comment?
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yep, sir.
I've been asked, I guess some of you probably got the same email from Jason Torain about Person County's fiscal and energy future. There's a meeting Thursday, March 21st at the Senior Center, 6:30 to 8. It does say free dinner, and does look at the fiscal and energy future of Person County. So he's asking that we share that meeting date and location. So I'm going to get that in before you drop your gavel. Yeah.
March when?
March 21st.
21st.
6:30, Senior Center.
Bill got suits on sale this week. Yeah, you a banker.
All right. Anybody got anything else? All right, we stand in recess until April the 1st.